welcome. I have with me here Heather Munro. She's an incredible orienteer. Yeah, she competed, of course, in World Champs 1999, but many other World Championships, of course, as well for all Great Britain, winning a bronze medal in 2005 in Japan. She was third in the overall World Cup in 2000, and she's won O-ringen once, the famous Swedish 5 days. That was in 2003. Some incredible achievements. Obviously, domestically, she's one of only 2 women now to have ever won all 4 individual British championship titles. So many congratulations for that. You're 5 times JK champion. Yeah, fantastic roster of achievements, fantastic career. Heather, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. And I've learned something new because I didn't know that I'd won 4 different British title disciplines.
Yeah, even the night championships, apparently.
Even, yes. Don't know when that was, a long time ago. Former life.
Yeah, good. Well, talking about your life then, how was it that you got into orienteering when you were younger? What was the story behind your development and how you got into athletics, how you got into orienteering?
Yeah, so the orienteering story is through my brother. So I have 2 brothers. My older brother, Andy, some people may be familiar with. He does the commentary often at British orienteering events. Andy was in the Cub Scouts. We lived in London, central London actually, and the Cubs went orienteering. Their minibus got stolen. My dad offered to help with the driving. I got dragged along because the car and my dad were going orienteering, and the rest was history. So I was about 9 or 10, and what I loved about it was just this sense of freedom of getting out of city life and getting out into the woods and running free, and yeah.
Cool. Do you have any memories of your first ever orienteering races or training that you ran? Type of terrain, maps and things?
Very early memories of just being totally lost and sitting down and crying and waiting for someone to come along and rescue me as a 10-year-old. But then very quickly kind of getting the hang of things. I have a very dear memory of winning my first British Championships as a W11, as it was in those days. So it was in 500-acre woods, and I've still got the prize because it has Winnie the Pooh on it. And that was really fun. And early years as a teenager, it was all about the sort of social side of things. So I had a school life, and then I had a social life at weekends, which were all my friends that I met up with when I went orienteering. So for many years, that's what it was about. And it wasn't until I was about 15, 16 where it started to be more about the competition.
Yeah. So in about when you were 15, 16, you started to feel more competitive in the sport, but you must have had something that sort of kept you driven up until that point. Was it just the social aspect of the sport, or did you always feel like you had some potential to achieve something, or was there some external influence that was keeping you pushing at the higher levels?
Yeah, all of those things, Hector. I think what I referred to about the sense of freedom, I really felt at home in the woods. It really did feel like a sort of sanctuary to get away from pressures of school and pressures of being a teenager, peer pressure, that sort of thing, and just be myself. I felt very free in the woods. I grew up in a family where achievement was highly prized, and so I worked hard at school. We had music lessons. We did all sorts of things where I guess a sense of self-worth was attached to doing well, and that certainly drove me as well in orienteering and in wanting to do well. Yeah, but until about the age of 15, where I kind of guess I realized that I really could be quite good at this. That the social side was really important, and I suppose it was a sense of sort of being amongst people who felt like-minded, who also felt free in the woods and liked to do that sort of thing at the weekend. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Great. Well, and then of course, you're getting older teenager. becoming very good, winning domestic races and such. Tell me a little bit about going forward from there and running international races, traveling around the world and competing for Great Britain.
Yeah, so I guess I was fortunate in that I had a lot of early experience in internationals. So I ran my first, what was in those days, Junior European Championships, and then became JWOC as a 16-year-old. And I guess I had my eyes opened at that time to, there's a sort of a world beyond British orienteering, and my family, we went to O-ring on holiday in the summer. So I was introduced to Scandinavian orienteering very early on, and just had little glimpses, I guess, at places like O-ring and junior internationals, little glimpses of what my potential might be if I could kind of get my head screwed on the right way. So I think I'm pretty sure coaches as well, not just me in my head, had identified that I could be very good at this sport. But it took me a long time to believe in that, and so I would have great runs and then I would have absolute disasters for many, many years. In fact, until I was a young senior, I think that would be my story of real fluctuating performances, finding it difficult to get it together.
Yeah. And so when do you think your breakthrough or stability came? Was it before 99? Because of course in 99 you had some really good performances and consistent across, the whole championship. So what was it? I mean, you moved to Halden and you were studying and these sort of things. So did that allow for this sort of stability to come and the consistency to arrive? Yeah,
so that definitely emerged. So after uni in Britain, I studied in Britain. I found myself in this sort of funny place of, well, what do I do with the rest of my life? I could just carry on this education production line and get a job like everybody else, or I could really follow my passion. And the forest still felt like my home. And so that was when I chose to move to Halden. I moved to Halden I spent a year in Hoxond before Halden, but I moved to Norway in 94. And through sort of couple of years, really, I think of commitment to this is what I really want to do, found that stability. So 96 was probably 3 years prior to that World Champs was probably my breakthrough, where I started to finish in the top 10 in the world quite consistently in World Cups, and the Park World Tour was also a great platform for that, realizing that I was as good as all these other Scandinavians that I held in such high regard. So yeah, I guess coming into 99, I'd probably had 3 years of performing at that level, but still not quite getting it together in World Championships, those elusive medals that eluded me for most of my career. Yeah.
So what was it about 99 then? Had you had like a number of years of preparation, I guess, before the championships? You knew it was going to be a home championship for a number of years before. What sort of preparations were you doing in those years beforehand to get to that point of like, yeah, I feel I can be at the top here and then achieving that?
So it was back in the days where we still had a 2-year cycle for the World Championship. So we had this lovely 2 years from 97 to 99 to prepare. And I spent a lot of time in the Highlands, Speyside and the Moray Coast particularly. A lot of solo time actually, just almost communing with the forest. It makes it sound a bit weird. I spent a lot of time not just training, but actually just being there. And actually even now, that part of Britain feels very much like a home to me. And so I had this strong sense, it was almost like a spiritual awakening, a sense of the wisdom of the forest and belonging in those forests and being at home in those forests. And so a very, very special connection to where the World Champs was happening during that time. And at the same time, it was a really exciting time for British orienteering. So lottery funding had just come into orienteering in '98. So it meant that we were on this really steep curve of kind of going from hard-working amateurs who were all trying to make a living at the same time as pursuing our orienteering aspirations and sleeping on the floor in village halls at training camps, to actually thinking of ourselves as elite performers and thinking about sports science and the lifestyle that goes with being an elite performer. So it was a very special time because, for my own development, for the development of British orienteering, everything just collided at the right time around '99, and of course on home terrain. So it was just fabulous.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, you achieved, of course, we didn't perhaps mention it, but an 8th in the long, a 12th in the short, as it was then, and a 4th in the relay. So, yeah, incredible performances, and of course, great results from the rest of the team as well. Some outstanding performances, and of course, medals. So, do you attribute it, that step there, or partly to home terrain, of course, but this lottery funding that you touched upon, like, and that feeling of being sort of a professional, or having that professional mindset and having that support behind you, how much or how important is that? Because of course nowadays orienteering is sort of taking a step back from that. So, or at least in Britain, how much do you attribute that to the success of not just the British team at this time, but looking nowadays to Switzerland, Norway, to Sweden? Are they successful just because they have this setup?
So I'm a little bit removed, to be honest, from the orienteering world now to be able to comment on that. But what I've observed in British orienteering is, I think that there is a legacy that has been left behind by that time that our current athletes still benefit from, and that is the mindset of a high performer. So I don't want to in any way undermine how difficult it is now without that money. I was very fortunate that I was at my peak when we had that funding, but it was a shift in thinking of ourselves as elite performers that I think has carried through. And if you look at British results now, they're sustained at the level that we stepped up to at that time. So I don't think it is just about the money. As I say, I recognise how hard it is when that funding isn't there. But I do think it is about a better understanding of what it takes to really perform at a high level, and a perception, a self-perception of I am an elite performer, as opposed to I'd really love to be like those Olympic athletes, but it's never going to happen.
No, absolutely. I can definitely hold with you there, and yeah, I kind of feel the same. Like, there was definitely a step change probably that came about through the performance funding and through the performance pathway, but then that mindset has continued, which has allowed for obviously great performances since then. I certainly felt it when I was a junior, sort of stepping up into the squad system, that everyone in this performance sort of pool had this sort of mindset, and had the backing of and the support of staff and paid people to do a professional job, which was great. All right, well, let's talk about a little bit about '99 then. The races itself, the week itself. Do you have any special memories from any of the races or the week itself? Like, how was it? I mean, it was a sort of once in a lifetime, in a way, experience to have that World Championships on home terrain.
It was just exhilarating, amazing. What a week. It's like a year telescoped into a week. An incredible journey of some highs and lows. I think there are two lasting things, and I'll come to one of them in a minute. But the one was this sense of being at home, and this being the place that I belong, and that wasn't just about the terrain. It was about the fact that well, we weren't in a village, we were in a little guest house, but the sense of sort of, you knew what was on telly. You knew if you wanted to walk down to the corner shop and get some jelly babies, you knew where to go. This kind of sense of being at home, there was a practical sense of that. The arenas just felt like being at a JK arena. You felt familiar with it. I knew half the officials on the start and the finish. There's just this sense of familiarity, I guess, that was very special. A sense that there was a whole orienteering public supporting us. Just, most of the people who were at the spectator races were British, and that was a lovely feeling. So feeling really supported. And then the forests, obviously, I've mentioned that sense of connection to them. And then there were the races themselves. So the relay race for me is still possibly the fondest memory I have of any international race that I ever ran. Possibly my best ever performance in an international race as well. But there was a whole journey to get there. So actually my 8th and my 12th are not results that I was particularly satisfied with in the long and the middle distance. I was at my peak, and I was very well prepared, but there was a lot going on in the team. There was a lot of unspoken, at that point, tension between Yvette and myself. Yvette was the queen of British orienteering. She was someone that I'd grown up looking up to, who'd been just brilliant she was a childhood star. And I guess I was up and coming, and had started to kind of consistently keep her company in the top 10 in the world. And for both of us, that was difficult in different ways. So I think that actually her gold medal in the short, was it short or middle? I can't remember when it changed.
It was short back then, but
the short.
It became the middle. It became the middle sometime. I'm not sure which year, but yeah.
Her gold medal then, in some ways, was a release for me, in that it sort of, I think I was carrying a lot of sense of, I didn't want to threaten Yvette's position as the queen of British orienteering, and it was holding me back to a certain extent. And once she'd won, I could just kind of get on with my stuff. Yeah. And that released me into that relay performance. But I have a sense of regret that I wasn't able to kind of perhaps pull out what I could have pulled out in particularly the long. There was a medal in the making there for me as well. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, great to hear about that. And of course, you did go on to win a medal later in 2005. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you did achieve that medal as well. So great. I mean, yeah, fantastic to hear. What do you feel like 99 became for you in the years after that? Was it that turning point as you described? It kind of, the release allowed you to then go on, in 2000 you were third in the World Cup overall. So that just shows an incredible consistency throughout the whole year on the international stage. So yeah, I mean, was it then just, it felt easy, or were there some struggles still after that?
No, there were lots of struggles, and I perhaps putting too much onto Yvette in a way, in that a lot of it was in my own head, and my own sort of getting in my own way of performing as well as I could. But the question about sort of what did I take from 99, I think going back to the relay, the relay was in Lochvar, which is just the most amazing orienteering area, and I ran the second leg, and that we chose that as a team tactically. The idea was that I was supposed to kind of go out there and blast away the rest of the field, and then Jenny on third leg and Yvette on fourth leg to kind of finish off the work. And I just had this experience of one of those runs where the controls just sort of are waiting for you, and it just feels so effortless and flowing and easy, and you're not aware of the competition. And as it happened, the competition just dropped behind. And so I did hand over at the end of the second leg. And I can't remember, I'm making it up now. I think it was about 2 or 3 minute lead. Can't remember. But it was that feeling of what it's like to be in the zone, to be in flow, to just be, to be being your ultimate orienteer, that I took with me from 99. And it's a very special memory. So when I think, even now in my working life, when I think about moments when I'm really truly being myself, they are moments in 99 in Lochvar. They are moments sitting, communing with the trees, that I take with me. And that's really had a huge influence on not just my orienteering career after that, but also, I suppose, the way I live my life. This sense of real connection with source, connection with who you are, connection with a sense of inner wisdom, and being able to tap into flow experiences. So that was very special to be able to take away from World Championships.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, I mean, really cool to hear. And yeah, I mean, a lot of athletes will talk about this state of flow and such. And yeah, you hear it in the worlds of business as well, and all these high performers and such. And it's difficult to articulate, but I think you did a very good job there. And yeah, hopefully people watching can really sort of understand and sort of engage and find their own flow, and really get that feeling, because it is an incredible sort of euphoric enlightenment to sort of have that as well. Definitely. Good. Well, we just got time for a little picture quiz to round off today, as usual, doing a little picture quiz. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll get right into it. All right, here we are, a little presentation. So if you could just give me the place and the year, and we'll talk a little bit around these photos.
So that is the race we've just been talking about. That is Lochvar. That's the spectator control in the relay in 99.
Look at that flow. You're checking your compass bearing at the spectator control.
Yeah, and that was the last year that I used a base plate. I switched to a sun compass after that, but there you go. Yes, just in total flow, and all around there is, there's all the British public.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a goosebumps moment.
Nice, very cool. All right, this one, which is the image that's been behind me this whole time.
Yes,
nice
World Games.
Yep.
World Games 2005. So that was my last year before I retired. Germany. It was a urban, but it wasn't a sprint. It was quite long. It was about 40 minutes or something, I think. So yeah.
Well, bronze medal out of it. Very good achievement.
Oh yeah. So that is me and my dad doing our first, what was the Kim and is now the Om. And I guess I was 16. I guess that's the minimum age, isn't it, to do it? So that will be 1987.
Yes, 88, I believe, actually. Oh. Yeah. Very cool photo, though. Yeah,
it's one of my favourites. Yeah. My dad's now passed away, so it's a very special photo, that one.
Yes, this is afterwards, I guess. You're both looking a little bit tired.
Yes, and my dad always tells the story that he had to wait for me at the bottom of the hills and I had to wait for him at the top.
Good. All right. Oh, here we go.
Oh, yes. So this is also 2005. This is the World Cup races. Obviously, this is not the World Cup races. This is the party after the World Cup races in Guildford, in the UK. So there was a sprint race in Battersea Park, and then the races in the North Downs. And it was a lovely team feeling that year as well. The British girls all did quite well on home terrain. So good Union Jack-tastic.
Exactly.
Setup, I'd say. I don't recognise my hair.
No, it doesn't get much better than this.
But then, you know, that stuff is, a lot of that stuff is special memories from these times as well. It's just the camaraderie and the fun you have together as a team as well. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Finally.
Yes, well, that was a very memorable moment as well. So that's my bronze medal in the 2005 sprint in Japan. Yes.
Yeah.
Occupying the podium with two female greats of orienteering. So nice to be there.
Absolutely. Yeah, legends of the sport, all three. So fantastic. Well, thank you, Heather. That was incredibly insightful. Very nice to have you here. Nice to interview you. Thanks for coming on. Have you anything final that you'd like to say? I mean, usually I like to ask people, actually, if you can, sum up in one word what orienteering has given for you.
Okay,
what orienteering means.
I'm going to buy myself some time first to say that it's also been really enjoyable. Thank you, Hector. It's been fun, bit of a trip down memory lane. What has orienteering given me?
Or what does it mean to you?
What does it mean to me? Self-knowledge.
Oh, yeah, I like that. Self-knowledge. Well, hopefully we get to see you all in the future, and everyone can see you in person at some orienteering sometime soon.
Yes, in the vets classes. You're not going to find me anymore. Those days are gone.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you anyway, Heather, and all the best. Take care, and thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, no worries.